Not an actor. A possum juggler is one who juggles possums. Now, we would prefer one who can juggle at least Hello? Hello?
She dated Red Fox in secret. Now we know the reason why. But behind that quiet mystery lies the story of a woman far more fascinating than her on-screen persona. Nancy Culp, born August 28, 1921 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, wasn't just another face in Hollywood's golden age. She was a force of nature. With her sharp wit, commanding presence, and unmistakable voice, she brought Miss Jane Hathaway of the Beverly Hillbillies to life in a way no one else could. Yet her journey stretched far beyond comedy, from serving her country during wartime to shaping minds in education and even diving into politics. Nancy's story is one of brilliance, boldness, and breaking boundaries, all while keeping one incredible secret close to her heart. Before Hollywood ever knew her name, Nancy Jane Culp was already defying expectations. Long before she became the sharp-tongued Miss Jane Hathaway of the Beverly Hillbillies, she was a small-town girl from Mifflintown, Pennsylvania, chasing dreams far bigger than her surroundings. Bright, ambitious, and endlessly curious, Nancy moved to Miami-Dade County, Florida, where her hunger for learning set her apart. At Florida State College for Women, now Florida State University, she earned a degree in journalism, but her story was only beginning. Words fascinated her, languages inspired her, and soon she was pursuing a master's degree in English and French at the University of Miami. To those who knew her then, it was clear Nancy wasn't destined for an ordinary life. Her early career began not on stage, but behind the typewriter. She wrote for a Miami newspaper before joining the publicity department at MGM Studios, a move that opened her eyes to the magic of film. Watching the stars shine from behind the scenes, Nancy couldn't help but wonder what it might feel like to be in front of the camera herself. But fate had other plans first. When World War II called, Nancy answered. In 1944, she put her career on pause and joined the U.S. Naval Reserve, proving her courage wasn't just scripted, it was real. Rising to the rank of lieutenant junior grade, she served with distinction, earning the respect of her peers and superiors alike. That experience forever shaped her, instilling the discipline, confidence, and sense of duty that would later define both her performances and her life. In an era when few women dared to wear the uniform, Nancy Culp wore hers with pride, long before she ever wore Hollywood's spotlight. It all started with a voice, sharp, witty, unmistakable. When Nancy Culp stepped into Hollywood in the early 1950s, she wasn't the typical starlet. She was tall, brainy, and carried a quirky charm that instantly made casting directors take notice. While others chased glamour, Nancy carved a niche as the unforgettable character actor, the spinster, the secretary, the eccentric woman who somehow stole every scene. Her early film appearances in The Model and the Marriage Broker, 1951, Shane, 1953, and A Star is Born, 1954, may have been brief, but Nancy had a gift. She made small roles shine. Every raised eyebrow, every deadpan line, every dignified pause, it all added up to something magnetic. Then came the role that would change everything. In 1962, she became Miss Jane Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies, the efficient, buttoned-up assistant to banker Milburn Drysdale and the secret admirer of the oblivious Jethro, played by Max Baer Jr. With impeccable timing and a touch of romantic yearning, Culp turned Miss Jane Hathaway into television gold. Her poised awkwardness, dry wit, and subtle vulnerability earned her an Emmy nomination in 1967 and secured her place in pop culture forever. But Nancy Culp wasn't content to live in one role shadow. From Perry Mason and The Bob Cummings Show to Sanford and Son, The Love Boat, and Murphy Brown, she showcased a versatility few could match, equally at home in comedy and drama, and even lending her distinctive voice to animated classics. And when the camera stopped rolling, Nancy didn't fade away. Instead, she reinvented herself once more, turning her sharp mind and strong convictions toward towards public service and education, proving that her talent and integrity reached far beyond the soundstage. She wasn't afraid to trade Hollywood lights for political fights. In the early 1980s, Nancy Culp, best known to millions as Miss Jane Hathaway, made a bold leap from the soundstage to the campaign trail. Running as a Democrat for Pennsylvania's 9th Congressional District, she championed causes close to her heart: social justice, environmental protection, and better education. But politics proved tougher than television, facing fierce Republican opposition and a surprising lack of support from her former Beverly Hillbillies co-star Buddy Ebsen. Culp's campaign ended in defeat. Still, her run stood as proof of her courage and her refusal to compromise her beliefs. After the campaign dust settled, Culp returned to a different kind of stage: academia. At Juniata College in Pennsylvania, she poured her experience into teaching acting and drama, inspiring a new generation of performers. Her students described her as sharp, witty, and deeply sincere, a mentor who cared as much about truth and storytelling as she did about authenticity in life. Long before politics and teaching, though, there was a quieter chapter in Culp's story. She married Charles Malcolm Deacus on April 1st, 1951, in Dade County, Florida, during the uncertain early years of her acting career. Their marriage lasted 10 years before ending in divorce in 1961. True to her private nature, Nancy rarely spoke about it publicly. What's known is that the end of her marriage came just as her television fame began to soar, with the Beverly Hillbillies premiering the following year in 1962. The divorce marked more than a personal shift. It symbolized her independence. From then on, Nancy Culp lived life on her own terms, single, steadfast, and committed to art, service, and the causes she believed in. In the late 1980s, the woman once adored for her sharp wit and unforgettable screen presence traded cameras for quiet mornings on a Connecticut farm. Surrounded by open fields and the soft hum of nature, she found the peace that fame could never give her. But Culp was never one to simply fade into the background. Even in this tranquil chapter, she poured her heart into teaching acting and drama, becoming a beloved mentor to young performers who hung on every one of her words. Her students often recalled her warmth, humor, and the way she made each lesson feel like an intimate conversation about truth and artistry. Eventually, she found her way to Palm Springs, California, a sun-soaked haven for artists, dreamers, and good-doers. There, Culp's passion for compassion took center stage. She devoted herself to local charities, most notably the Humane Society of the Desert, where she championed animal rescue and rehabilitation with the same determination that once defined her career. Still, her love for the stage never left her. Through the Desert Theater League, she continued to nurture young talent, attend performances, and occasionally step back into the spotlight, not for fame, but for the sheer joy of storytelling. In this quieter, purpose-filled phase of her life, Nancy Culp proved that true artistry doesn't fade when the cameras stop rolling. It simply finds new ways to shine. It's easy to imagine Nancy Culp fading quietly out of the spotlight after the Beverly Hillbillies, but she never truly stepped away from the stage she loved. Even after leaving Hollywood, she found new ways to nurture her passion for acting, pouring her heart into local theater productions where her presence was both magnetic and deeply respected. Colleagues admired her humility and her generosity, qualities that extended far beyond the world of performance. Culp also devoted herself to causes close to her heart, especially through her work with United Cerebral Palsy, where she raised funds, led awareness campaigns, and lent her time at community events. Her compassion was no act, it was who she was. In Palm Springs, she became known not just as a Hollywood veteran, but as a woman of quiet strength and boundless kindness. Whether she was rescuing stray animals, mentoring young performers, or championing the rights of people with disabilities, Nancy Culp's later years revealed a side of her few fans ever saw, a life fueled by service, purpose, and love. Yet beneath that gentle exterior lay a story few could have guessed, one that linked her to a man as bold and fiery as she was refined. For decades, fans of classic television would never never have imagined the connection between Nancy Culp, the witty, proper Miss Jane Hathaway of the Beverly Hillbillies, and Red Fox, the sharp-tongued, streetwise comedian from Sanford and Son. But behind the curtain of Hollywood's golden era, the two shared an unexpected, secret bond, one that would remain hidden from the public for years. Who'd have guessed that Miss Jane Hathaway and Fred Sanford shared more than just fame? On the surface, Nancy Culp and Red Fox seemed to come from opposite worlds. She, the sharp-witted, polished intellectual with a background in journalism and the Navy. He, the unapologetic, streetwise comedian whose jokes could make even the boldest audiences blush. Yet, behind the cameras and beyond the laughter, the two formed a connection that few could have imagined. Nancy Culp's life was marked by discipline and intellect. A graduate of Florida State University with a degree in journalism, she served in the U.S. Navy's Women's Reserve during World War II before stumbling into acting almost by chance. Her articulate speech and commanding presence landed her roles in the early 1950s, and she soon became television's quintessential quirky intellectual, best remembered as the buttoned-up secretary Jane Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies. Red Fox, on the other hand, was a force of nature. Long before Sanford and Son made him a household name in the 1970s, he reigned as the king of the party records, a master of raucous, razor-sharp comedy honed on the Chitlin circuit. His humor was raw, his delivery electric, and his charisma undeniable. Where Culp was reserved and cerebral, Fox was loud, daring, and unpredictable, a man who thrived on chaos and laughter. So, how did two such wildly different souls ever find common ground? According to those who knew them best, their unexpected bond began at a Los Angeles charity event in the late 1960s. Both were at the height of their fame, both wrestling with the pressures of public life, and both, despite their vastly different styles, shared a surprising intellectual spark. They were voracious readers, passionate about civil rights, and deeply committed to authenticity in a world obsessed with appearances. What started as mutual admiration quietly evolved into something more personal, something neither of them flaunted, but both cherished in their own private way. Whispers of their secret romance have floated through Hollywood for decades, a love story hidden in plain sight. It wasn't just any relationship, it was one that quietly defied the rigid norms of its time. Nancy Culp and Red Fox, two stars from entirely different worlds, were said to share a connection so deep it blurred the line between friendship and forbidden affection. It's believed the secrecy surrounding their relationship was born out of necessity. The era was unkind to interracial couples, and both Culp and Fox were under the microscope of fame. She, the sharp-witted intellectual who never publicly discussed her sexuality, mastered the art of deflection whenever her personal life came into question. He, the fiery comedian with a complicated public image and multiple marriages, already carried enough controversy to last a lifetime. But those who saw them together knew there was more than gossip between them. Friends recalled the way they'd laugh endlessly, debating everything from politics to comedy, their bond unmistakable. Culp admired Fox's fearless humor and bold social commentary, while Fox was captivated by her intellect and razor-sharp wit. Their chemistry didn't need a camera to be seen. It was felt. Some say their connection was fleeting, others insist it was profound, a quiet meeting of minds that neither fame nor fear could define. Both passed away in 1991, but their story lingers like a whisper, revealing not scandal, but sincerity. Perhaps the real reason they kept their relationship hidden wasn't shame or fear, but the simple desire to protect something rare and genuine. In a world obsessed with appearances, Nancy Culp and Red Fox may have chosen to keep the truest part of themselves far from the spotlight, safe, sacred, and beautifully human. Nancy Culp, forever remembered as the prim and proper Miss Jane Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies, faced a battle off-screen that was far more harrowing than any sitcom plot. A longtime smoker, Culp unknowingly carried a habit that would shadow her later years, a habit once seen as sophisticated and fashionable in an era unaware of tobacco's dangers. Decades of cigarette use took their toll, and in 1990, Culp received the devastating diagnosis of cancer. While the specific type remained private, the news marked the start of a grueling final chapter in her life. Bravely, she endured chemotherapy, a treatment notorious for its punishing side effects: fatigue, hair loss, nausea, and weakened immunity. Yet true to form, Culp confronted her illness with the same grace, resilience, resilience, and quiet strength that had defined both her career and her life. Even in the face of relentless adversity, she remained dignified, proving that her spirit was as indomitable as her iconic television persona. Tragically, Nancy Culp's battle with cancer reached a devastating turning point in 1991. Just a year after her initial diagnosis, the disease had metastasized, leaving treatments powerless and her loved ones reeling. On February 3, 1991, in the serene desert city of Palm Desert, California, Nancy Culp passed away at the age of 69, leaving a void in the hearts of friends, family, and fans alike. Her passing marked the loss of a truly unique talent, one who had not only entertained millions, but also carved out a place for women in the male-dominated world of comedic television. In the wake of her death, her remains were returned to her home state of Pennsylvania, where she was laid at rest at Westminster Presbyterian Cemetery in the quiet town of Mifflintown, Juniata County. The peaceful cemetery mirrors the calm dignity that defined Nancy herself. Though she is no longer with us, her impact endures. From her unforgettable performances to her pioneering spirit, Nancy Culp may have left this world, but her impact is timeless, echoing in every smile she inspired and every story she helped tell.